Okay, so how would they avoid that?
Yeah.
Like with their, like, let's say that they did their message perfectly.
Mhm.
It wasn't manipulative. It wasn't anything. It was all with pure intentions, good intentions. And they gave their messages delivered well, how they should be. No false sense of relatability, anything like that. How would that not prey on the vulnerable
Right.
and the identityless
Right.
at that time?
Right.
It would.
Hello,
Welcome
or welcome back,
to the Womanly Podcast.
where we embrace womanhood in its entirety. From the hard and awkward conversations,
To the silly and embarrassing moments.
an effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation.
What are y'all drinking?
I'm drinking punch that I was going to make at my Halloween party that I decided not to make because we ended up with so many drinks. But now they are informing me that we probably could have used the punch as well right before we started recording.
No. We were fine. We were fine.
Yeah, especially since the punch was going to have vodka in it. I think none of us needed
Oh
that.
my
No.
gosh.
No.
Yeah,
No.
It would have
at
been
the
really
party.
yummy, but yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we needed it.
it is so good. This one is the one that has vodka in it too. Do you want to try it?
want to try.
Actually, don't, because I've been feeling a little weird. So I don't know if I
Yeah,
got
There's
something.
stuff going on
True.
around right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spread anything.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper from McDonald's. Didn't eat there, just drove through there to get Dr. Pepper because they have the best.
Yep.
They do.
They have the bubbly.
And it's almost fairly priced at $1 a cup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like $1.86.
What?
Yeah.
Normally it's $1.08.
They charged me $1.86.
Did McDonald's change their drink
I think
prices for
they-
the first
I think
time
they
in
did.
forever?
I
Yeah.
think they did, because I
Wow.
went through recently trying to get a Coke, and I was expecting $1, like the 108, and it
Yeah.
was like something like that. And
Mhm.
it was
Oh
probably
my gosh.
186.
They upped their
Boycott
price.
McDonald's. There's no reason for them to charge that amount of money for
So
syrup,
Right?
syrup drinks,
Syrup and what is...
soda water.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
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 So every week we like to ask each other a unique question to check in on each other. And today I'm asking, how are you feeling right now?
I feel like every time you ask the question along those lines, it just
Mhm.
like hits me in my gut.
Ooh.
I'm
Interesting.
feeling good. I've had a cough for almost a month and a half, and I'm aggravated about it.
Yeah.
Ready for it to be gone. Because I was sick, and then and as I was getting better, I got re-aggravated when I went to Austin City Limits because of all the dust. And then I started getting better from it, and then I worked 17 hours outside in the cold wind, which made me sick again. And so, yeah, I just can't get away from it. So the cough has been a little bit much. Aside from that, there's some changes happening at work that are exciting, but at the same time a little nerve-wracking. So I won't go into the details of it. I haven't told you guys yet. I'll tell y'all later. But yeah, so there's just like within the next week, a lot of things could really change a lot. And it's exciting, and it has some potential positive things for me specifically. But at the same time, those positive things come with a lot more responsibility,
Yeah.
which is a little nerve-wracking because, you know, you feel like you're ready for it, but at the same time, do you really want more responsibility?
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, I'm feeling okay. Just want that
Yeah.
dang darn cough to go away finally.
Dang. That would be, I'd be annoyed with that too.
I'm just
Yeah.
tired of it. I want to just be able to get through a day without coughing. That's all
Yeah.
I want. It's so hard to ask.
Yeah. I'm feeling pretty good.
Mhm.
Yesterday was not that good. But today it was better. So, yeah, as of right now I'm feeling pretty good.
For me, I'm feeling physically a little bit off because, like, I threw up a lot after our Halloween party.
Mm-hmm.
And then my, for no reason, I'm just kidding.
No reason,
For
none at
obvious
all.
reasons. Yes, it was a very, very fun, too much fun party. And I thought that the next day, after my throat started feeling sore, I thought it was because of just like all the stomach bile getting into,
Ew.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, gross. But I thought it just like irritated it, but
Yeah.
it hasn't gone away. It's just progressively gotten worse
Yeah.
ever since then. And so I am like, yeah, I think I got something else going. Allergies, something's going on. So, yeah, I feel physically a little bit off. And also I'm in the phase of my cycle right now where I cycle syncing.
Yeah.
It's it really, really helped me, but in the phase of my cycle right now where I don't sleep well. And it is very true. Like if you are having insomnia and you don't usually struggle with insomnia, or you're just like not getting that good of sleep, try tracking your cycle, because you'll be like, oh, okay, that's just the part of the cycle that I'm in.
Wow.
So I'm feeling a little bit tired right now, but also part of this cycle, part of this phase in the cycle, I am very alert. What my app says is that I'm supposedly very alert and like focused, and that has been true to a T. Like today, I was blowing through work. Like I was just like
That's so
a
satisfying.
I know.
to
It was
know.
one of those days
Yeah.
where I was just like, oh, I'm getting everything done on
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it so fast, and yeah, it feels really good. I hate this phase of I have a love-hate relationship, because like you don't sleep well, but and so you feel kind of tired, but like your brain is like on steroids.
So sharp.
Yeah.
It's so sharp. So
I love
love
that
that.
phase of my cycle.
yes, but I also love the phase of my cycle where my estrogen is high, because that's when you feel really like happy and
Yes.
creative and stuff like that.
That's the
so
best.
I don't know how any of these things feel. I'm kidding. No, the mental fortitude has been, I was actually thinking about that before you even really started getting into that.
Mhm.
It was like, that's something else I've been feeling recently, is in the last month or so, I feel like I have so much mental fortitude throughout the day. Like my body could be tired, but my brain just like keeps up in a way that it has not been for years. So I've been like, I don't know what's causing this or what's going on, but all of a sudden I have so much mental fortitude and I'm loving it. I love every second of it.
That's awesome.
I wonder if that's either gut, like something's going right with your gut,
I don't know.
or your progesterone levels are like doing really well,
I
because
don't know.
that's
I
what
have no idea.
progesterone fuels, is like that mental
Yeah.
it's
I
part
have
of
no
what
idea.
it fuels a lot of things. But
I mean, and I think just my anxiety overall has been lower, even though like nothing's really changed. I still have the same amount of stressors and triggers and stuff in my life, but I feel like I'm coping with them better. And so then of course, but I don't know if that's because like my mental fortitude is better because I'm coping better,
yeah.
or if I'm coping better because my mental fortitude is better.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
really sure where the process is with all of that, but
Totally.
whatever it is, I'm super thrilled about it. So
I would like to point out that Madeline got bangs.
yeah.
Oh
they're
yes, we
so
need to give a shout out to
cute.
Madeline's bangs.
Go to YouTube, check out her bangs. She's
Yes.
rocking them.
Thanks.
Yeah, we
So
upload
cute.
all of our episodes on YouTube. So if we ever talk about a visual thing, it can always be seen on YouTube. Or on a lot of times on our Instagram too. But
Yes.
they look so good. I'm
Thanks.
obsessed.
Yeah.
I still haven't touched them. I did 1, 2, 3, and that's it. I've not
Done.
touched them again.
They look so good.
And I use craft scissors.
Oh my
that hurts me,
gosh.
So for Delena's Halloween party this past weekend, Cord and I dressed up as Eddie and Chrissy from Stranger Things 4. And of course, Chrissy has bangs. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess I could just like go and just with my regular hair and, you know, people will still get it. But I've been thinking about, and I'm pointing at Katie because she knows I've been thinking about getting bangs for a while now. I've just not really wanted to do it. And I don't really want to like make a hair appointment just to get bangs.
Bangs, yeah.
Because I only really get my hair cut every 6 months or something like that. I really don't get it done that often. And I didn't ask for bangs the last time I got my hair cut, even though I'd still been thinking about it at that point. And I was like, screw it, I'm just going to do it. And it turned out so cute. So
Yeah. looks
and
so
it's,
good.
It's like fall, and it's
Yeah.
like the perfect time to do it because like
The
I don't know,
beanies.
your beanies and like your
Bangs.
forehead's not like getting sweaty.
Oh yeah, that's
Summer.
true. Yeah.
So I feel like when fall comes, the bangs come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Good
And
point.
I'm even tempted to do it again, but I'm not going there.
No,
I've
you,
been-
you don't,
you
you don't do them
Yeah.
yourself this time. Let
Yeah,
somebody
how
else do
come
'em.
you did them yourself and they turn out great and mine turned out like shit?
Because your hair is thicker than hers. That's why.
I don't think it is. I think I have as well. The
Or at least
texture
right
may
here.
her texture is probably
Mine's very coarse.
hers is coarser than mine, but we have like the same amount of hair.
I think you have thicker hair than I do.
I may have more
You may
hair.
have more. Okay. So
yeah, I have more
number
hair,
one-
but it's a soft, like a finer texture.
Exactly. Anyways, our bang tangent is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, good lord.
If you ever feel like you want to improve your image and get bangs, I'm making some sort of stupid. We're talking about self-improvement tonight.
Woohoo! That was a seamless transition.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
It was almost like it was rehearsed.
Record.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We are talking about self-improvement tonight. Something that I'm pretty sure everybody is familiar with the concept. I mean, you've got self-help, but
Self-help books.
self-help. Really? I mean, self-help
honestly.
books are kind of self-help books.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can
Because
be.
they're just telling you how much you suck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like not sure whether or
so
not that sound was
true.
agreeing or not. I thought she was about to disagree with me, and I was like, I'm not sure where that's going.
Yeah.
No,
Anyways.
I agree. Mhm.
Yeah, self-improvement. We're going to talk about. It kind of seems like it's a little bit addictive. Like, is self-improvement a drug?
Not
Yes.
for me.
No.
I
think it's
I was
so
just telling
easily can
Bryce.
be. Yeah.
I was just telling Bryce. I was like, I feel like this is not a drug for me.
That's good. I mean, that's fine and good.
I feel like I'm a little lower than like average. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely not a drug, but it's not something I don't care about. I'm just medium.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I understand.
I don't have very much to say on this subject tonight, and I'm just happy to be here and get your input.
Here's
to be
my
honest.
question: would you consider yourself a perfectionist? Like whenever it comes to things you do and are you a perfectionist?
No.
No. Okay. So
I
I
would
think
not
they go hand in
consider-
hand in a way.
I would agree with that
Yeah.
from what I know about like just the general idea of self-improvement
Yeah.
and self-development. I mean,
You're chasing after perfection. essentially.
that is essentially what it is. And I think I definitely wouldn't call myself a recovering perfectionist. That's a very strong statement, but I did definitely have those tendencies when I was a little younger. And I think I've just chilled out a little bit, it's just not that big a deal.
I am much more of a perfectionist than I could ever care to admit.
Really?
Yeah, big time. As far as like myself and the things that I do, serious perfectionist. Other people, I'm like, I've got a lot more grace for other people. For myself, I'm like,
always.
yeah, like for myself, I have such high standards
There's
for
like
everything.
no exceptions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically none. And so I think as I was kind of going through thinking about self-improvement and how I've kind of interacted with the whole idea of it and the industry of it throughout my adult life, I kept on thinking about perfectionism. It just kept on coming up in my head as being a one-to-one thing. Because I feel like the whole idea of self-improvement is like, you're not good enough where you're at. And so that's why you have to improve. But why aren't you good where you're at? Like what makes you decide that? And at what point are you good enough to not have to worry about those things? Right.
Yeah.
And for the people who get really sucked into the concept of self-help and self-improvement and all of that, I think they're chasing after perfection. It's never going to happen. And so they're just constantly stuck in a cycle of always trying to improve on something.
Yeah.
But you're improving on something that should already be good
Yeah.
enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I think I've really tried to be like gracious with myself. Like in the past several years, it's just like perfectionism is nothing for us humans to be trying to live up to.
Yeah.
It's never
No,
going to
it's not.
happen. It's so hard on your mental health, so hard on your self-esteem. It can be hard on your relationships, friendships, family, whatever. Like, it's just hard on you.
Yeah.
It wears you down. And I'm just not here for it.
I'm trying
No.
not to be. I am a recovering perfectionist.
I
Yeah.
know, me too. I feel like, have you ever met somebody who you're like talking about, I don't know, maybe like an improvement that you've made or something like that. And they kind of have this attitude of just like, but why would I do that? Like, I'm good
Yeah.
with like exactly where I am. That was meeting people like that was like, was what made me reevaluate my drive
Yeah.
in this area of my life.
You're like,
'Cause-
how are you good?
yeah, exactly. I
How?
was like, how are you
What does
just
that mean?
good? Like, you're
Yeah.
just fine. Like,
Yeah.
I can't even comprehend that. And then that like made me think, well, why can't I comprehend
Right.
that?
Why
know,
can't
like,
I
why
just be good with it?
why can't I just be good? Is just being good like, hey, I'm just good. Like,
Good
I'm good where I
enough?
am. Is that settling?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
Oh,
that's how
yeah.
it was in my mind, that I was like, if I
Yeah.
ever come to a point
You're
where
settling
like,
for something mediocre.
yeah, if I ever come to a point
Oh.
where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm good, I don't need any more, then I'm settling.
Yeah.
Why would I not constantly be pushing and grinding and hustling
Trying
and
to
like,
be your best self.
trying to be my best self? Why would I not constantly be trying to do that?
Yeah.
Why? Like, that was my mentality.
Right.
And it was meeting people like that I was like, well, what do they have that I don't?
Mm.
Which is kind of funny that I feel like somebody who has that kind of drive would think that. They would
Right.
Yeah.
they would be like, wait, you have something that I don't,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, what about your happiest self? You know?
Sometimes whenever you're in that mindset though, you think that like you're most successful, you're most whatever, that is your
Your
happiness is
happiness.
so tied to those things
Yeah.
that you can't separate it. You can't find your happiness with where you're at.
See,
Mhm.
I guess I just don't understand that.
And I don't think, and I really wanted to preface all of this with saying like, I think that self-improvement has its time and its place in your life.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that there can be the opposite side of it where it's like you don't do anything to improve yourself or your circumstances. And that's equally as bad as being completely addicted to the self-improvement cycle,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I think it has its time and its place, and it can do really well for you in certain ways. But I just think that by and large, this is something that people make a lot of money on,
Mm-hmm.
putting out these self-help books, because people feel inadequate. They feel like they aren't where they want to be.
Yeah.
And people are making money off of those feelings because they're constantly making them feel as though they need to be better.
Yeah.
They need to do more. They need to look different. They need to have the next promotion or whatever else, make more money and have all these,
Yeah.
And to me, whenever you get sucked into all of that, because it's manipulative, it's toxic, that to me is where this lies. And I can see myself in a lot of ways falling into that trap, because I am personality wise, I'm the kind of person, not necessarily that I think I'm inadequate or that I've ever spoken those words to myself that I'm unworthy or inadequate or not good enough or whatever, but I just genuinely desire, I like feeling like I've accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And feeling that way and having that drive and pushing towards something is just such an addictive feeling for me that doing it in an arena that I can fully control,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy for me to fall really deeply into that.
Yeah.
So that's the perspective I'm coming from with all of this, is that there's a time and a place for it, but it's very easy to get
Literally addicted to it.
literally addicted to the concept of self-improvement. Do y'all know who Mark Manson is?
No.
He's the one that wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
so he's from Austin originally, but he's an author, and he's kind of like the anti self-help guy,
Mm-hmm.
because he writes things that are like super applicable and like kind of brash in a way that it's like, I'm telling you exactly what you need to hear in the way that you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Which is very antithetical to like all the floofiness and romanticism of self-help generally.
Yeah.
I kind of went down a massive rabbit hole with a lot of his blog posts on his website, which is super good, by the way, if you're interested in looking it up. And I made some notes. So I thought we could go through those a little bit and just see how everybody feels about some of the things he's written, because I felt like he had being somebody who does a lot of self-help work and like self-improvement stuff in that realm. He's also very anti-self-help and very anti-self-improvement. So I thought it was just a really interesting perspective. But one of the things that I wrote down is that he said the ultimate goal of all self-improvement is to reach a point where you no longer feel the need to improve yourself.
I don't agree with that, because I think if you ever get to a point where you feel like you don't need to do it anymore, I feel like that's not healthy. Because I feel like it's like whenever you get to a certain point of self-love, and it's like, okay, I love myself enough. I'm not like, I'm done. Like I've arrived. I feel like even though I'm sort of in the middle of this subject, I would never want to come to the place where I'm like, I'm good. Like, I feel like I don't need to overcome any more fears. I don't feel like I need to work on that. I don't feel like I need to learn anymore. Like, it just, I don't know. Maybe I'm not right.
You are. I just think my perspective on it is different because I do struggle with self-improvement.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think what you said, especially like learning specifically, I think we should never stop learning. Like there are certain things you should never stop doing. You should always be learning. You should always be growing in some way, but there's this healthy level to those things. And that's just life. It's not so much like you're trying to improve something. It's just something you enjoy doing for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Not for the sake of improving yourself. Right.
Right.
So I think that's the differentiating factor in this, is that whether or not you really get sucked into the self-improvement addiction.
Yeah. The whole.
Yeah. If you get sucked into the hole, then at some point, like the first way to kind of get yourself out of the hole is just to decide that you don't need the improvement anymore. That doesn't mean that you can't improve yourself, but what's the purpose behind you doing that? Is it because you feel like you're not good enough unless you continually learn or you continually get over things, or is it because you genuinely enjoy those things and you're doing it because you love it and it makes you feel good, right? Because I think the self-improvement hole doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel horrible. It makes you feel inadequate. It makes you feel like you're not good enough and you're unworthy. And so that's what I heard whenever I heard that quote, is that like the way to get out of that, or the ultimate goal of it, and what they teach you the goal of all of it is to get to a point where you no longer feel that way. But it's kind of a lie, because you're always going to feel like there's something to improve.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'm glad you expanded on your view of it, because I didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way, where I'm like, it does start with like the mentality that he's talking about. Like it does start with somebody being like, I feel like it starts with like this FOMO. Yeah. With like, I am gonna miss out on the peak of life. If I don't improve myself so much and like come into my full form, in order to achieve the American dream.
Yeah, it's like this idea of self-actualization, but that's a myth. You can't do that.
Like, I feel like the epitome, that's the word I was looking for. I feel like the epitome of self-improvement is Scientology.
Oh my god.
Are you familiar with the idea of Scientology?
Yes.
Vaguely.
Well,
honestly.
A lot of cults, really. The idea behind a lot of cults is to like arrive.
Oh, this whole self-improvement industry is very cultish, whether they know it or not. But then it very easily crosses over into this cultish mentality. But I have watched a lot of these self-improvement gurus over the coming years, as more people have spoken out about how damaging the whole like self-improvement culture can be. These gurus almost like struggle to continue to be relevant. But also, more so, I've seen several of them like go through things in their own life where they have realized like, oh, I don't need that as much as I
Yeah.
used to whenever
Yeah.
I was preaching it.
Yeah.
But they have to keep preaching it because now it's their livelihood.
yeah.
So now it like turns into this weird hybrid
Yeah.
of like they've changed a lot of their beliefs and their points of view, but
Yep.
they're trying to perpetuate the same beliefs and points of view so that because otherwise they lose their livelihood,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, then it just becomes a weird money game.
Yep.
And
I think it honestly starts that way.
you think so?
I think the people who have the biggest voices, that's what they always intended.
I
I think-
disagree. I think that the people that I have seen, I think they started because they started somewhere really, really small and they got somewhere way farther than somebody who started where they were typically gets.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, oh, I should help everybody else do this. And so then they start helping everybody else do this, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But they're not really helping. They're painting a
Oh.
dream.
Yeah.
And
Because I got lucky or something.
because I don't even want to say that they got lucky because there's like a level of me that totally relates to them. There's a lot of things that happened in my life where you could ignore the hard work and responsibility and opportunity that came along that I provided in my own life, because if I had not made the decisions that I made and done the work that I did and built the skills that I did,
Yeah.
that those opportunities would not have presented themselves. Because when that opportunity came, if I didn't have the skill set for that opportunity, which was on me to build,
Yeah.
then do you call that luck or do you call that preparedness,
Yeah.
at the right
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
And so I struggle to call it luck because there are a lot of people that do, like me, have worked very hard and then the right opportunity came around at the right time. And they took it because they did the hard work before that.
Yeah.
Which there's a famous quote by Oprah saying, luck is just opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
And which I think is very true. But there are some people like, okay, somebody married somebody who had a lot of connections.
Yeah.
That would be more on the luck side.
Well, and I think that there are people who do all the preparation and the opportunity never comes.
Yeah.
Or there are a lot of people that the opportunity comes, but they did no preparation, but they still could talk their way into the opportunity as if they'd done the preparation.
Yeah.
So I think of a lot of people who have done self-help and stuff. I think of the girl wash your face person. What's her name?
That's who
Rachel.
I'm thinking of too. Rachel Hollis.
Rachel Hollis.
Yeah.
I think of a lot people along those lines where it's like almost they're like faking it in order for it to come off sounding really, really good
No.
because they know they can make money off of
Yeah.
people. And so to me, that's all manipulation. I think that
they make it.
I think it's both. I think that they're like, it's almost like this is what we should believe and this is what should be true about our life. So we're just going to keep reaching and pushing for it and trying to make it true about our own lives because we have to preach it. And also we have to make money.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
where I do think that I don't think it's like this most of the time. I don't think it's like this evil scheming,
No, I agree with you. And actually what you just said about it being like they're preaching this is what I should be doing. This is what everybody and a lot of them are doing it in the way that this is what I should be doing. This is what I am doing, which is the lie.
Yeah.
And this is what everybody else should be doing too if you want to be this idealistic version of yourself. And it's the fact it's so unattainable and it's so false because they're preaching something that they can't even do on their own.
Yeah.
And every one of them are doing it.
I
Like
know.
you have to preach this level of perfection and pretend like you're achieving that as somebody, because how else are you going to be believable to the
Right.
people who are buying into your message?
Right.
If you're not proving to them or like making them believe, manipulating them into believing that you've got what you're preaching is possible, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like I like the Mark Manson stuff because he's like, you can improve in a lot of ways. Improvement is fine. It's a great concept. Do it as much as you want to a certain degree, but you're going to screw up. Like, you're going to screw up. Things aren't going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. They're not perfect. And I think that's like that concept, while a lot of us know it's true, that discussion of it being like so normal to screw up and have missteps and whatever else is missing from the overall self-help, self-improvement conversation, except whenever it comes to trying to make you feel like you're the scum of the earth in order to get you to buy into what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's just so, it's ick.
Yeah. I think that that's the biggest point of manipulation for me, which I have seen Rachel Hollis do this a lot, but a lot of other gurus like her, where they have this false sense of authenticity, or like, I'm not perfect, you know, because I do X, Y, and Z, or I did this the other day and it was like, haha, so clumsy and not perfect and blah, blah, blah. And it's like this false sense of relatability that I feel like a lot of these gurus go off on in order to get people to trust them and buy. And that's the biggest thing that rubs me the wrong way in the self-improvement industry, is all of the false sense of relatability, which is just so it's like, it feels so inauthentic, and you're just trying to like level with me so that I'll like connect with you on a personal level, so that I'll listen to what you have to say, so that I'll buy your product.
They're creating like brand loyalty.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so, that's what I think is the most harmful part of it, is that like that stuff works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It does. It does on a lot of people. And it's funny that we've like ventured our way into this, because my next note is about how much self-absorption goes into this. That like there's a difference between being intuitive and introspective versus being completely self-absorbed, which I think whenever you get so far into the idea of self-improvement and self-help and all of that, that you have become very self-absorbed.
Totally.
Because you're just consistently inwardly looking at yourself and just you're literally obsessing over yourself in certain ways that are not healthy, and it affects your relationships with others, I think, really badly. But you even see it with like Rachel Hollis. You see it with a lot of people along those lines, where it's like, it's the nature of what they're doing, but all they're doing really is talking about themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so true. Yeah. I think that I remember coming to a point, and I've really realized it. I think that there is like a time in your life, especially when you're like in your early 20s, like late teens, early 20s, maybe to mid 20s, where you kind of have to be self-absorbed.
I mean,
like, you
we
just have
all
to,
are naturally.
We all are naturally, but also like, you are trying to like set up your entire life.
Yeah.
You know, like everything that matters is like what you're doing at that moment. And of course, it doesn't help that people during that age are like, so what are you doing with your life? What are you, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, so you're like in your own world of trying to figure your crap out, you know? And that's often, I feel like, when a lot of people fall into the self-improvement trap as well.
Either that, or it's like midlife crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when you are inventing yourself or reinventing yourself. Yeah.
And it's like this preying on the vulnerable and the cripplingly insecure, you know, that really bothers me about the industry, that I'm like, but okay, so how would they avoid that?
Yeah.
Like with their, like, let's say that they did their message perfectly. It wasn't manipulative. It wasn't anything. It was all with pure intentions, good intentions. And they gave their messages, delivered well, how they should be. No false sense of relatability, anything like that. How would that not prey on the vulnerable and the identityless at that time?
Right. It would.
It would.
Yeah.
Like where do you go? Because those are the messages that those people want and need. They're craving at that time.
Yeah. It's like whenever I mean, it's just like on social media. Whenever you're in a season where you're like desperate to improve your physical health
Mhm.
and your overall fitness, whatever, you seek out the people on social media who are doing those
Super
things
fit.
because it inspires you, it encourages you, and all of that. And you're like, they can do it, I can do it too, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing. Like if you're
Yeah.
feeling really inadequate about yourself in a certain way, you do want to improve in those areas. You seek out the people who are going to make you feel like you can do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally.
It's just, I do think that a lot of people can get addicted to the seeking out of the information and not so much about like actually doing what's needed to be done to get to where they want to go. And then
Yeah.
just being okay with
Mm.
it.
Yeah, I remember, like, and to this day, I still look back on that phase of my life where I'm like, man, like I was just so laser focused on really setting up my life at that time, but also just becoming so laser focused on becoming the best version of myself that I started to look down on the other people who weren't like as obsessed as I was
Right.
with it.
Yeah.
Mm.
I didn't value my relationships the way that I should have. All of that was secondary to
Mhm.
becoming the best version of myself, which is so
Yeah.
ironic because a huge part of becoming the best version of yourself should be investing
Having a good
in
home team. Yeah.
your relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I felt like I just don't have time. I'm trying to become the best version of myself,
Yeah.
you know.
And the best version of myself includes other people who are the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you are the sum of the people that you spend the most time with.
Exactly. Oh my God. Shivers
And-
hearing that.
I know. And so, like, all that together, I look back on the time of my life and I'm like, it's a little sad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really proud of all that I accomplished. And there was a level of that was definitely needed. But how
You-
much of it
Yeah.
was?
Did you sacrifice things that you really wish you hadn't in order to?
I totally
Yeah.
did. You know, I totally
Mhm.
did sacrifice time with family that I wish I had. And am now making an effort to prioritize, like, whenever friends have events or family has events, those are the last things to get canceled on my calendar now because
it's so important.
well,
Yeah.
because my therapist told me to.
For a reason.
Yes, clearly. He was like, next time, because I was telling him about all this one time, and he was like, next time, he's like, from now on, those are the last things that go on your calendar. And I was like, okay, it's going to be really hard, but I'll do it. But now I actually want it. Like, I don't want to miss out on those things.
Yeah.
Like, I want, my life doesn't exist within my brain and my computer.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah. We touched a little bit on this. So I really wanted to read this that I wrote down because I think it's so important. Mark Manson wrote in an article that there are self-improvement junkies and self-improvement tourists. And the way he explained that is that self-improvement junkies make improvement their full identity and are putting all their time, resources, and relationships into this drive toward perfection.
Mhm.
Whereas self-improvement tourists dip their toes into self-improvement materials when they realize something is off. They use it to help fix whatever is bothering them, get back on their feet, and move forward. So one type, the junkies, are stuck, and then the other type, the tourists, are moving forward. Like they're actually using it to move forward.
Mm.
And I feel like whenever you become a junkie, like you get so deep into this stuff, you start to almost get more confused rather than anything else. Where
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
well, there's just something wrong with everything. Like
Yeah.
nothing is up to par,
No.
you know? And you kind of come to a point where you're like, and I don't know what to do about that. And should it be like this? And should I, what should I do about, like, you just start to become exhaustedly confused.
Yeah. Confused, and it overall leads to feelings of inadequacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Which makes you want to consume more.
Yeah, exactly. Because it just feeds itself, right? So
Yeah,
it just
totally.
fuels the addiction
It's like a
because
little circle jerk.
Yeah.
I can't believe you just said that out loud. But you're right though. I mean, it's like whenever you're constantly involved in this and participating in this, it only makes you feel worse.
I actually feel like that entire industry is a circle jerk, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like as gross as that sounds, I really,
Yeah.
it really,
yeah,
there's like a select few who are out there being real, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, it's just kind of like a problem, Band-Aid, problem, Band-Aid, problem, Band-Aid. You just keep
Yeah.
going in circles.
Yeah. So another quote from Mark Manson that I wrote down, and I wish that I had literally looked at anybody else, but his stuff was just so good that I couldn't help it. But he said that anything that tells you how to improve your life is also implying that there is something inherently wrong with the way you are.
Yeah.
And the word inherent is so important because that means that
Yes.
it's like something that you like, it's
We're born
deeply
with.
rooted in who you are
Yeah.
as a human
Yeah.
being. It's not something like, you know, you've got this habit that's kind of annoying. No, it's about like deeply
Yeah.
who you are at the core of the person that you are
Yeah.
is wrong. And this whole industry is basically telling you that there's something about you at the
Mhm.
core of the person that you are that you can't really change. You can't really change
Yeah.
that deep. You can't really change who you are.
Yeah.
They're telling you that there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Who the hell do they think they are that they get to say that to anybody or make
Yeah.
anybody feel that way?
Yeah.
It
It's
almost
so wrong.
it almost feels like such a deep feeling that it's tangible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
the word inherently is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm just like, yeah, it almost just feels like tangible. Like you can just feel it so hard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they're trying to tell you that there's something wrong with
Mm-hmm.
something wrong there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think there could be something wrong with your diet. There could be something wrong with the habits. There could be something wrong with some of the friends that you hang out with. And maybe, you know,
Yeah.
those are things that you can really, you know, like that's fine to have thoughts about how those things can be changed or improved. But for it to be
Mhm.
something about you as a human being, like at the core of the person that you are, which is what they're hitting at. They're not hitting at all the other surface level stuff. If they
Yeah.
are, that's fine. But those things are things that get changed and then you move forward, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
This digs so deep.
I think part of the reason it digs so deep and is such just like an endless vicious circle is that it's like saying there's something inherently wrong with you if
Mhm.
you are happy.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're
you
okay
are
with
happy,
where you're at, there's something
there's something
inherently deeply
yes.
wrong with that.
Yeah. What is wrong with our society?
Self-improvement.
Thank
Money.
you.
It's money. Yeah.
Money. Yeah.
It would not be what it was if they weren't making money on it.
No. They would have gone nowhere near
They
as
would have
far.
moved on to something else by now.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, on the other side of this, like, we're talking about arriving.
Uh-huh.
There's another side of this. It's you. Why would you want to arrive? Because then there's nothing to work toward.
Mm-hmm.
And that all comes down to like money. Bryce and I were talking about the other day how famous people must be so unfulfilled because
Yeah.
they are filthy rich.
Mm-hmm.
They've ruined their bodies with every plastic surgery imaginable so that they don't even look like themselves anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like that just sort of seems like the other end of this as well. It's like when you're so fulfilled and you have arrived,
Mm-hmm.
that must be so boring.
Well, that's the funny thing about that to me is that I think the idea of arriving looks so different to so many people because
Yeah.
somebody who's like Kim Kardashian, who to me was the first person came to my mind because she's
Yeah.
filthy rich and has had every
Right.
plastic
Yeah.
surgery in the book.
Yeah.
Um,
We were all thinking it. We know.
Yeah.
her arrival might look like quiet moments and time with family and not being in the public eye.
Yeah.
So she's probably not arrived. She probably doesn't feel like she's arrived. Although for
Yeah.
us,
We're like
looking a
she's
certain
arrived.
way, having a ton of money, that does look like success. That does
Mhm.
look like you've arrived.
Uh-huh.
But that's the other thing that's so wrong about all of this is that you cannot preach a one size fits all self-actualization
Right.
arrival because
Yeah.
it looks so everybody's coming from a different
Mhm.
starting spot.
Yeah.
We all have different goals. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make it so that everybody is trying for the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
There was one thing that Khloe Kardashian said that stuck out to me because whenever you hear people who have had like a reality check, it's usually like oh, I've lost everything. And then I realized what was most important because I lost
Yeah.
everything. She actually made an opposite statement where she was like, I can literally have whatever I want.
Yeah,
She's like, I
yeah.
have all the money and resources I could ever need. I can have
Yeah.
whatever I want. And that is what has made me realize what is actually important.
Yeah.
Is that they get to
Yeah.
this point of arrival and then
Uh-huh.
they're like, oh, frick, I haven't arrived actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all
It doesn't
of
exist.
this,
Arriving doesn't exist. We'll just
Exactly.
say that.
Yeah,
It doesn't
like-
exist.
because all of this, physical fitness or whatever
The-
you want to call it,
Yeah, the huge house,
physical
all the
appearance,
money.
the house, the money,
Houses.
the resources,
Yeah.
everything that you could possibly need on a surface level you have. And that's why you hear so many people that get to that point and then they're like, but
now what?
they're like, now what? Yeah.
That's
this
exactly-
is it. This is what I was
That is
waiting
exactly
for.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I think when you have something to work toward, and I think God made it this way,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're never going to arrive, and that's fulfilling because you've always got something to work for. And I feel like if you've got like we're saying, like all the money in the world and like everything you could ever want, I just feel like it's no, what are you living for? You know what I mean? It's just kind of sad if you think about it.
I think
I
part of it
understand, yeah.
comes from the mentality that we all grew up in was that, and especially older generations grew up in, where it's like, you get a job, you work that job till you
Mhm.
retire, and once you've retired, you have arrived and you can just chill for the rest of
Yeah.
your life. I think we all now have this picture in our head where it's like, okay, I need to work towards this day, this
Yeah.
one big day in our lives, where it's our wedding day or our retirement or like whatever it is. I don't know. I feel like it's two things. It's like nurture, but it's also nature because like we're ceremonial beings,
Mhm.
and I feel like that plays into it where like we want to come to a destination and have a moment
Yeah.
because we're ceremonial beings.
True.
Yeah.
And so it's like in our nature to want to arrive somewhere.
The funniest thing about all of this is that I'm sitting here. I've never dreamed about my wedding day. I've never dreamed about retirement. I've never dreamed about having children. Like all these
either.
ceremonial
Yeah.
things, like sure, it'll be nice when it happens, but
Yeah.
I've never really dreamed about any of those things. But I know people who make their whole,
Yeah.
everything will be good once I'm married.
Right.
Everything will be good once I have children and I'm a
Yeah.
stay-at-home mom, or everything will be good whenever I can, make enough money that I don't even have to think about
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Not true.
all of life's problems still exist in those moments. Like they don't
Mhm.
just magically go away because you've ticked this box or you
Mhm.
ticked that box.
Yeah.
And I think
So-
it's this concept of arrival. Like, sure, why would you ever want to arrive? Because at that point, like there's nothing else to live
Yeah.
for. But at the same time, you can't arrive. And that's the dangerous part of this, is that they're preaching something that's completely unattainable.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never get it. You'll never be satisfied. If that's what you're looking for, you're never going to get it. You'll never be satisfied.
Yeah.
And so at that point, what are you living for? If you're
Mhm.
living for arriving,
Mhm.
you're living for nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think if you truly ask yourself, what are you living for? Then it does come down to this point where it's like, okay, like really imagine if I had all the money in the world, is that the only thing that matters?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, I have all the money. Imagining myself having all the money in the world, but my relationships are crap. And like, imagine everything else is crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, if all my relationships were just thriving and great, but money was crap, would I still be good? And there's like part of that where I'm like, dude, if I lost all my money, but all my relationships were like thriving and very fulfilling, I feel like that would be more worth it than
Yeah.
having all the money.
I'd still like to have some money.
I'd still like to have some money.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to financially struggle.
Yeah.
No.
But
But if you've
I
got
feel like whenever you take yourself to extremes mentally and
or
emotionally,
like
you start to narrow down
Mhm.
what actually matters
Yeah,
to you.
I am as beautiful as I could possibly ever hope to be.
Mhm.
Perfect shape, everything. What else is there? Like,
Yeah.
I think the other thing about this is that I think almost you get into this trap of believing that you have all the money in the world, therefore you have good people in your life.
Yeah.
Because
yes, exactly.
what else does it attract?
Right.
I don't think it attracts good people if you have all the money in the world. I just don't. I don't have all the money in the world, but so I can't speak from experience.
Yeah.
But I just assume that kind of tracks some poor personalities.
It attracts interesting people.
Yeah.
I'm the most beautiful person I could ever hope to be. I'm exactly what I want to look like, everything. So automatically that's going to mean other good things in my life. Like, I think a lot of people get stuck in this trap of thinking, like, if I focus in on this one thing that I think is really wrong about how I'm currently living, everything else will just fall into place. This is the only thing. If I could just get married, then everything else will fall into place.
Not
Everything
true.
else will be good. The bad things in life still exist.
Yeah.
And you have to pay attention to, it's like, you have to go an inch deep and a mile wide whenever you're doing the self-improvement. You can't go a mile deep and an inch wide into one thing because you're missing everything else. And again, improvement is a totally normal, okay thing to do.
Yeah.
It's whenever you're pushing into it so far that you're sacrificing a million other things in order to focus on this one thing with the intention of arriving, when that is literally never going to happen. And you get stuck in this cycle and it's hurting you. It's hurting the people around you.
Yeah.
Like, that is so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
And the only way for you to stop that cycle is to decide that you are okay with where you're at. And I don't mean that you quit doing,
That you quit caring.
that you quit caring.
Yeah.
It means that you just decide that if nothing big ever happens for me again, I'm okay with the life I'm living now, so long as I'm trying to be a good person, have good relationships, all of that, learning, you care about what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
But you have to decide that you're good with where you're at. It's all about your own decision. If you're stuck in this cycle, the only way that you get out of it is to decide. It's not even like I'm good about where I'm at. It's deciding I am enough. Where I'm at right now, I am enough. And that feels like it's kind of like, duh, of course you're enough. But whenever you're really stuck in this, those
don't
words are
believe
so
that.
hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say.
I just think that it's in our nature, like whether you believe in Jesus or not. I think that it's in our nature that like we don't find rest, true peace until the day that we die, and we go to sleep forever, if you will.
Or you come back as a squirrel.
Or you get reincarnated as a squirrel. But I do think that is our arrival.
Yeah.
Because that's actually where it all ends.
The struggle.
Yeah. And so I think that all of life becomes this lesson which is really beautiful in that, like, it's meant to be lived in the tension. Like, it's just meant to be lived in this. I need to always care, but not let that care turn into poison, to where it's obsessive. And and that is a principle for all of life. And on
the other side, you also don't need to become complacent either. There's like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're avoiding all the toxicity of it, don't go too far on the opposite side and become complacent.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying you always need to care.
Yeah, you always need to care.
Yeah, you always need to care, but you can't cross over into, because if you don't care, then you're complacent.
Yeah.
And if you care too much, you're becoming obsessed, and it's just this little tightrope that you have to walk. And I think that it's very, very healthy, and it helps you to grow once you decide, I'm not going to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk the tightrope. That's the harder thing to do, but it's the wise thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's the healthy thing to do. And that's going to help my relationships with others and myself and, I don't know, the world around me.
Yeah.
Yeah. My last note that I made on this, and then we can go into final thoughts, is another quote from Mark Manson, who's surprised. But this is so good. He said, "The only way to truly benefit from self-improvement is to one day arrive at a place where you no longer need it." So you can arrive, but you're arriving in a place where you decide you no longer need self-improvement. You can want it, you can desire it, but needing it is the issue.
Yeah.
Like a cast for a broken arm or a bandage for a deep cut. You put it on, let it heal you, and then you take it off and move on with your life.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of like, I think self-improvement in this way, as it being something that you use temporarily to fix or heal something,
Mm-hmm.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine. You use it in that moment, use it for what it's worth, and then you move on until you need it again.
Yeah.
Need it again. But
Right.
you cannot constantly need it every day of your life. You don't always have broken bones. You're not always broken as a
Mhm.
human being. The idea is to not always be broken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just like to say that self-improvement, and you kind of lightly touched on this earlier, self-improvement looks incredibly different for every single
does.
person.
It
Like
does.
really, truly a healthy desire for self-improvement and the journey that you take to fulfill that desire is so incredibly, and that's where, them trying to box it in really becomes poisonous, honestly.
Yeah.
Is that they'll try to tell you that a friggin' 5 a.m. routine is what you need. Girl, do not give me a 5 a.m. routine. I will do fine without it.
Yeah.
And I will still
Yeah.
achieve all my dreams.
When what you really need is a little bit more sleep.
What you really need is a little bit more sleep. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it just, please, if you take any of this self-improvement journey
to heart. Yeah.
or just go on that journey at all, just know that they make blanket statements because they're speaking to large audiences of people, and so that means that there's a little bit that's going to apply to you.
Yeah.
And discard everything that you feel like doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There are people in your life who will be able to work with you one-on-one to help you decide specifically in your situation, based on the things you yourself are telling them,
Yeah.
what may or may not be the best thing for you in those moments. And that is the advice that you should seek out, not falling into this community of a talking head
Yeah.
and believing in something that they don't know you.
Yeah. It's
They
a blanket
do not
statement.
know you.
Yeah.
Go find people who know you, listen to their counsel,
Mm-hmm.
do what you need to do to be satisfied in the one thing you feel like you need to fix,
Yeah.
and then move forward.
Yep.
It sounds so easy. I know. I know. But that's the most productive way of going about doing this. And it's the healthiest way, in my opinion.
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
Just always remember that you are enough.
Mm-hmm.
Also, please remember to wear your sunscreen.
Drink your water.
Be kind to yourself.
We love you.
Bye.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.